What goes down but doesn't come up? A yo. Right, this video, changing political and trading relationship with the wider world, what we've seen so far regarding the rapid economic development of Kenya, what impact is that having with the wider world? So here we go, rapid economic development. We've got this same slide that we've seen in the previous video, a 5-fold increase in the size of the economy in the last 20 years, doubled in the last 10 years. This has led to a change in the trading relationships with the rest of the world. Kenya has more power, more money than it's ever had before, and it means that its relationships with the rest of the world change on the grounds that it can now buy more, and actually, crucially, as we're about to see, it can also sell more as well. So how has trade changed? Part 1. HIC exports have mainly stayed the same, if I'm being 100% honest. The exports to the UK, the USA, the Netherlands haven't really altered at all. They are still the cash crops. But our highlighted point here is the change. We've had a recent increase in the exporting of finished goods to LICs, such as buses and mobile phones, to, for example, Uganda, Pakistan, and also Tanzania. So our change has been from Kenya being an export of cash crop country to HICs to it now starting to have that manufacturing industry and starting to export finished goods to some of its neighbouring countries. The imports from NEEs such as China and India of finished goods has also continued. That isn't really a change as such. Kenya will buy finished products from China and India as it won't have necessarily the ability to make them itself, so they'll buy them cheaply from China and India. However, what we have here is a tied aid system with China. As you'll see on the final slide where we look at the political change, Kenya has undertaken a Look East project where it has gone to the countries such as China and Taiwan and has started to make trading and political deals with them. So, an example here is iron and steel imports have increased from China for Kenya to build their own finished products. So crucially, the change here is that Kenya used to go to China to buy its finished products. Now Kenya is going to China to buy steel to make their own finished products to then export to neighbouring countries. In terms of tied aid here, what's actually happened is China has offered to, or is currently building a railway line for Kenya which links the ports of Mombasa and also the capital city Nairobi. With that in mind, China has offered to build that as part of an aid project, however has also said if you're buying steel, if you're buying iron, you're going to buy it from us. So our change has been that they're also buying the resources to build finished goods from NEEs. Really important, imports and exports have increased to their highest ever level. As the country begins to industrialise, we've seen that with the Toyota factory opening, the country needs more raw materials and also machinery to build it. So it imports more raw materials, but also has to import more machinery or finished goods to build them, but then actually exports more finished goods as well. So we've still got this concept of Kenya being an agrarian or agriculturally based society, growing cash crops and selling them to HICs, but also we've got this change now where Kenya has a role to play on the global economy for exporting finished goods, particularly, or especially I should say, to its East African neighbours. So that's part 1 of the change. Part 2 is this East African free trade community that we've seen before. Kenya has joined this group and is actually the largest economy within this group. It means that it's got those trade partners to export finished goods to, which it doesn't have to pay any taxes on, and it can export as much as it so chooses to them. This is why Kenya is such an attractive proposition for TNCs such as Toyota, such as Samsung, such as Coca-Cola, because they can set up in a relatively safe country in East Africa of Kenya and export freely to make more profit to these countries. So the change here is that Kenya is an attractive proposition to these TNCs. In terms of political change, Kenya is still part of the Commonwealth and has offered political advice to its neighbouring countries, many of which are also part of the Commonwealth, on the grounds of running elections freely and fairly. Now, although there has been some criticisms of the Kenyan election system themselves, they can offer advice on the administration side of it. Furthermore, don't forget they've also offered environmental advice to Tanzania as well. The big one that we've seen previously, or I mentioned previously, the Look East project. Kenya have made political and economic ties with China. China has offered them a military guidance and training within Kenya to its troops, and also the Chinese premier came to visit Kenya in 2014, agreeing to fund many infrastructure products like roads, like railways, like clinics, like schools, like hospitals, etc., etc., etc. This is an incredibly important change where Kenya is looking outside of just simply the UK for aid projects or investment. Is now starting to look at those emerging economies of China and also India to a lesser extent. So politically, Kenya is moving itself to be an ally to China and is hoping to benefit economically from this. So hopefully you can see that there are big changes happening in Kenya at the moment. We have both trading change in terms of who the country is trading with, and also what they're importing, what they're exporting, but also politically a move to align itself with China. Anything you're not too sure about there, come and see us down in H7.